Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Dead Space 3 Impossible Difficulty video walkthrough. Well, this is the second part to Everything Has Its Place. And this room here usually is filled with, there you go, stalkers. So we've just done a massive stalker convention. We're about to do another one. This one is StalkerCon, and they're everywhere. And this is the first time I realised they could jump out of the wall and out of the floor, because my friend Aiden went forward in this room and it jumped out between us and it killed him. So you need to be super careful and extremely paranoid for that, you know, that potential opportunity. Somebody's commented on one of my videos. He's pretty much a general on this channel. He's called Saki. You'll see him everywhere. He's got a picture of Cobra as his like avatar thing. And he's mentioned that when you manually reload with this weapon that we're using right now, do you see it jump out in front of me? How much bullshit is that? When you manually reload this gun, you lose ammunition. So for instance, if you fire a shot and then you reload, you will lose the remainder of that clip. And I did not know that. But one thing I do know is I buy a lot of ammo for weapons, or for instance, if I have a lot of ammo, I'll have barely any ammo in no time at all and not feel like I've shot as many shots as it says I have. And it completely makes sense now. I can't believe I didn't see it. So word to the wise, if you have a reloading fetish, which I do, can't help it, it's ingrained, it's almost muscle memory at this point. I reload after every kill on every game I play. You're going to lose ammunition, so you need to try and not do that. Because that way you're going to make your resources last a hell of a lot longer and you'll avoid this issue. I don't know, that sounds so bad that I'm not a fan at all. That right there, when he jumped out of the snow, did you notice how he was already mid-animation doing the attack? If he'd have clipped me, I would have died, and that would have been cheap. Not a fan of that at all. Not a fan of that either. What the hell did I just shoot? Where's he going? I think he forgot to lock his door. But he's ran off anyway, so it gives us a moment of respite. But let's have a look. See what I mean? Guy on the violin again. He's following us. He's just everywhere. He's probably one of them rock faces just stood up there in his little tux, just going nuts. Using his bow like a boss. Is he dead? No, he's still got a little bit going. I keep accidentally using that fire. If you're wondering why I'm doing that, it's because I had the horizontal like conjection tip or whatever, which fires the blade, and I was using that for a while on my other playthrough, so I keep assuming that I've got it and I don't, because it's a fun weapon. That it's not quite as fun as it was in the old games, but it's still pretty good. Oh, he's back, can you see him? Here he comes. Yeah, he's got his keys this time. Here comes the Stalker. There goes the Stalker. Cannot recommend this weapon enough, boys, really can't. Unbelievably powerful. I actually tried the force gun and the javelin for my first major power tool, but it turns out that the javelin on this game is dog shit, which makes me really sad to say, because the javelin was my favourite gun on Dead Space 2. But they changed it. They changed a lot of things. They changed the force gun now. The force gun is no longer the most overpowered piece of equipment in any game. It's now pretty much a crowd control and not damage dealing at all. The plasma cutter, they changed that. The line gun, I can't really tell with the line gun. I've not used it enough, and I never really used it in the old games except for the first time I played Dead Space, and I really enjoyed it. But like the flamethrower, I've never really used the flamethrower because it was shit in the first game. The second game, a lot of people told me it was great, but I didn't use it because of the stigma it had from the first one. And then in this, a lot of people use it for crowd control, but it doesn't stun people for me. They just run through it like it's ice cream. It's not cool. But now we've cleared the area, we can do some looting, get some of our ammo back. Some of the ammo back we burnt by reloading every opportunity we could find. And then we're going to be moving into the Geology building, I believe. Scavenger bot waiting at the bench. So hopefully we'll be getting some rations soon. And if you're wondering why you never see me spend the rations, it's because I've edited it out. So just because I'm not doing it doesn't mean I'm not doing it. Type deal. This is Geology. This is an interesting room, this. I thought there would be something happening in one of these rooms. I thought there'd be a room filled with these kind of specimens, and I thought that they would crack the ice and they would come and attack you. But nothing like that happens, which is a massive shame, because there's a lot of environments in this game that aren't used very well, and this is one of them. And considering that there's some places you go through which are boring as tits, and you go through them numerous times, and they're just the most arbitrary encounters, this place is actually quite creative, and they don't do anything with it. But there's an interesting spawn coming up, and I kind of break it, which is cool, because there's going to be a bunch of the crabs that infect the bodies, but I'm going to trash the bodies before they have time. So, oh, that was a optional mission. That's one of the talk bar doors, so let's see what's in here. These are effectively the node doors from the previous games. They work the same way. You generally get out what you put in. Sometimes you get a bit luckier with some schematics like that one, which is the Hot Death, which I assume is a flamethrower schematic, but don't use the flamethrower, don't like it at all. Definitely tried it. You know, tried it because it's silly and it should be amazing, but it just isn't. As soon as a necromorph gets touched by fire, it should flail, it should stop its attack, and it should be stunned, but it's not. It just laughs at you. It's like you're giving it a quick spray tan or something. But a good habit to get into whenever you pick up some of the schematics or the upgrade circuits is going back to the bench to dump them, or they will take up space in your inventory. These are some of the blueprints I could build if I wanted to, but a lot of those weapons in the blueprint sections, they sound cool, they look cool, but they're all pretty shit in my experience with a lot of them. But I think that's just because the setup of the force gun and the damage dealer is such a powerful combination. Like the plasma, the pulse rifle, sorry. The pulse rifle and the grenade launcher, that is a great combination on this game, because the pulse rifle does some sick damage to limbs, so you can dismember things easily, and then the grenade is great for any kind of, you know, when you're getting rushed or when you need some space, especially if you put the safety guard on, because that way it doesn't damage you. This encounter right here, this is where the crabs are going to come from, and they're going to infect these two bodies. So what I tried to do is I tried to force gun this guy or push this guy through this door, and watch what happens when I try and do it. It completely kills his body. And then it makes this guy so that he doesn't move. I cannot even influence with this guy because I'm destroying the game's scripting at this point. So instead, I try to use the force gun doesn't work. Then I stamp him, and if you stamp the bodies enough, they don't have anything to infect. And what will happen is, the enemies that would normally come and cause havoc here, which are not the crabs, sorry, the heads with tentacles, they're going to come towards you, and then all you have to do is shoot them, and it's literally that simple. It's hilarious, and it's good game design, because knowledge allows you to overcome, and Dead Space has always done this with the infectors. If you knew an infector was going to spawn and you got rid of the bodies, it had nothing to infect, and I like that. I think that's a really rewarding way of playing, and it doesn't happen nearly enough in this game. There's a quick scavenger bot cache, which is always good to see. This is me looking around for any cheeky things on top of ledges, because you'll notice they hide a lot of boxes on top of rafters and things. This is the Rosetta piece, the second of the 3 that we'll need. Here come the infector guys, with nothing to infect, so I just take them out with a quick seeker shot to the face. And that is this room conquered there, guys. No encounters needed. And then you can fire this over there, so you don't have to carry it through the lasers, and then you can go back through this strange rock and laser puzzle. And all that's left to be done is Paleontology, which is probably the second toughest region of Chapter 14, because there's a lot of rooms filled with feeders, and they're the black feeders that take an absolute shit ton of damage. And they don't just throw 10 at you, they throw like 50 at you. But luckily enough, there's another exploit that I found where if you stand in the doorway, they have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and they will literally only come at you from one direction usually, so all you can do is funnel them and take them out at your leisure. But before that happens, a couple of soldiers here to make quick work of. as that guy raises me with a couple of bullets. Sorry, another quick headshot. And there's 2 more, I believe. There's one. Hit him with the force gun, shoot him when he's down. Easiest way to kill these guys without wasting ammo, even though it does take 2 shots. Oh no, there's only 3. Job's a good one. So stamp the bodies, get the transducers, all that good stuff, and then we can continue back to the main corridor, and we're going to be going to the ballsack room where the elevator was, which is going to lead to a very interesting corridor that leads to paleontology. Do not like that corridor at all. But before we get there, I'm going to buy a quick talk bar, mess on the bench a little bit, and just get ready for the trials that are about to take place. Because chapter 15 is pretty rough. There's a couple of firefights in that chapter that are tough as hell. Chapter 16 is pretty easy. It's a bit gimmicky and novelty, and I personally think it's the worst chapter on the game. Chapter 17 is not too bad. It introduces a new enemy to you, a new environment to you. Chapter 18 throws way too many enemies at you for the sake of it, and then chapter 19 is the final one, and it's pretty short, pretty underwhelming, pretty simple. So we're not doing too bad, and the rest of the game is not too bad at all, but 15 is definitely the chapter to beat. There's a firefight in chapter 15, which I felt, don't get me wrong, I did it my second go, so it's not like it took me a million attempts or anything, but it felt like it was difficult. And you have those moments in games where it feels like it's a challenge, and that was definitely a room that stuck out in my memory. But hopefully there's nothing here when we go back through, because we cleared it out of the Stalkers before. You'll notice I'm always tentative, because this game does have a tendency to repopulate areas with different enemies, and as soon as you run through you end up in the middle of 3 spawns, and shit hits the fan, and you know, the shit sticks. But back into the main chamber with these awesome loading doors, and this is Danik divulging some more information to us, where he tries to get across his point, his motivations for wanting to set the markers free, for wanting to defrost this planet. Which, it's not the best reasons really, because they're trying to make out that the markers preceded human beings, and that humans beings only function on our planet was essentially to feed the markers and to help them with convergence. Which is an interesting concept, but it's highly ridiculous. But then again, Dead Space 3 story, if you're this far into the game and you're wondering if the story gets any better, it really doesn't. There is no saving this particular narrative. It's just fucking doomed. I just ran past the lift there because I'm amazing. There it is. And this is going to lead to a very challenging catwalk. So what happens here is you run forward and you spawn, I think, 2 necromorphs, and then 2 more spawn behind you. It might be 1, but it's soon to be 2, because you must take on 6 of the buggers in this room. It's not cool. It's not cool at all. So you see them climb up. Do you see them just then? So I know what's going to happen. There's the first one. There's the second one. There's the third one. So 3 in front, 4 in front, and 1 behind. There's definitely 1 behind me. I can't hear it, but I know it's there. There it is. So now that we've got them all on the other side of the corridor, we can proceed to start seekering the limbs off. If they get close, we can just hit them with the force gun. Another one behind me, so just bear in mind there's another spawn. I'm in trouble here. I need to heal. Goodness me, I'm playing it a little cavalier for my own good. There we go. There's the heal. There's the reload. Spin round. Time to deal with some of these cheeky bastards. And have you noticed when you ever face multiple necromorphs, they always seem to take a couple extra shots than they normally would do? Always just, try to be extra bastards just for the sake of it. But there goes the limb. There goes the corridor. That can be a lot harder than it looks. One of the things that really frustrates me on this game, even though I understand it, is how you can't use medpacks while you're aiming. You have to come out of the aiming, so you can't even stun the enemies. And a lot of the times, as you use the medpack, you're going to get clocked again. So sometimes it's better to not heal and knock them on their asses. It's one of those really weird disconnects. But the reason you can't is because when you aim, you do kinesis, obviously. It's the same button, so the button is mapped for 2 different functions and the modifier is the trigger, so it does make sense. It's just me being pedantic, really. Here's a quick situational puzzle that opens the door for you. And as I mentioned, this is essentially just feeders for days, this next few sequences. And somebody left a comment on one of my videos saying the kids come in Tau Volantis, and I assume is in reference to me mentioning how the children with the claws are not in this game, aside from in the hallucinations with Carver. And he says that they come in Tau Volantis, which is wrong, because the feeders, they're the ones that, you know, look like Starving Marvin, completely different. They're really skinny adults. They're the completely different enemy. But there is a torque bar. There's a bit of stamping. There is an explosive amplifier, which if you're using any explosive weapon or any, you know, focused and optimized explosive weapon, you're probably going to want that on because it makes it more devastating. I personally think that that's a terrible idea, but who knows? Maybe there's somebody that really enjoys that kind of way of playing. Because Aiden said it best the other day. You know, when you think Dead Space, you don't think rocket launchers. You just don't. It's not that kind of game. It is. And I know that might seem like a silly reason for not using something, but you'd be surprised when it comes to this. Here is the room, which is not very fun anyhow. When you walk out into this room, you're going to get attacked on all sides by a combination of the standard feeders and the black feeders. One thing I found is if you stand in this doorway, they don't really know what to do. They can't quite figure it out, so they'll just keep on going back into the vents. Every so often on this right hand flank they'll run at you, but on the left they can't understand what you're doing. It's almost like we're breaking the game. To them we're cheating. They can't comprehend where we're standing. But the ones on the right, a little bit smarter. So what you're going to do here is you're going to stay in the doorway for as long as they'll spawn, and when they stop spawning there's still more to come. It's just the scripting is kind of stopped because it can't understand what we're doing either. So when you move into the room, they're immediately going to spawn onto you, and you need to take care of them, either get into a better situation or come back to the doorway. There is easily 40 enemies in this room. There's a stupid amount of dudes, so if you think you've killed an entire legion of these crazy enemies, there's probably still more to come, and that is the best philosophy to have, because if you don't, you're going to end up getting killed and you're going to have to do this entire thing again. Because if you get cornered by 2 of these, it's game over, unless you're quick, unless you've got a nice crowd controller, a nice street sweeper. But this is working surprisingly well, and I'm glad it does, because this room is rough as balls if you run into it. And I think you can probably run over to where the elevator is and press the elevator and get onto the ground floor, but I get the impression that this is one of those encounters where the feeders will follow you down, and you really don't want that. Especially when you've got this awesome safe spot up here, but it looks like it's clear, doesn't it? Looks like there's no one left, can pick up all the ammo, but it's not. All it is the game has finally cottoned on to the fact that we've essentially broken the scripting. So when we go out, listen, immediately, something's just spawned behind me. There's another one, a black one. There's one on the other side, 2 more on that side, 1 on that side. You see, there's plenty left. It's just the game realised that it wasn't functioning as it was supposed to be. So deal with them any way you want. Keep on checking your back just in case. And as soon as I think these guys go down, I think that's the last of them. So a potentially very difficult room, done easily thanks to the way that the game is programmed and the way that the doorways seem to be God mode in Dead Space 3 for some reason. But pick up all the loot, continue going for those lovely blue lights, finding out what treasures they hold. And then when we get down here, I think there's another encounter, but for the most we're just going to be getting the piece of Rosetta and then carrying on. But there's still a good 10 minutes left of this video, which tells me that we've got a couple more encounters that we're about to face. This right here is a puzzle. This is another one of those puzzles that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you look at each of the dials, you look at how there's different degrees and measurements on them, and it makes you think that perhaps there's a way of dictating how this is going to twist. And then when you start spinning stuff, it just does what it wants. So it just becomes this thing where you just keep spinning for laugh until you drop on. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of this, you know, slidey tile nonsense that doesn't really take much skill. It's just a case of perseverance more than anything. Like, why can't we just twist the middle one and boom, they're all on 0, and then them two go to 90, that one goes to 0, and then I do this one goes to 60, they go to 0. It's like, what is even happening? Silly machine. So, you know, they're a bit lopsided. Not really what we need. Come over here, twist this one. Once again, a little bit lopsided. And you're like, what? The cat, are they, no? Yeah? No? No? Twist? Yes? Twist? No? It's just, what's going on? What is this? Who thought this were a good idea? And boom. And then it just does it. It's like, hang on. That doesn't even make any sense. But at least it's there. At least there's a change of pace with these little distractions. Because I would rather spin these machines all day than do another goddamn abseiling section. Chapter 16 is all about the abseil. It really is. But now we've done that, we can move towards this doorway and go back to Ellie and Carver, now that we've got all the pieces, and then we can assemble Rosetta to try and get whatever it is we're getting from her. I can't quite remember the story beats. I know it's information to do something. But this looks like it's going to be another elevator, i.e. loading screen. Oh, this doorway. Where does this lead? This looks like a ball sack room. Yep, it's a ball sack room, so just be careful. One thing you can do to these things is that just there, if you stasis them and then you stand near them, they will usually spit out their explosive and hurt themselves with it. But I'm not too fussed about doing that. I don't mind wasting ammo on the little critters. For a second then, that light on the roof looked like one. But I'm extremely timid when it comes to these things. I've learnt my lesson on Dead Space 2 numerous times that you cannot underestimate any area that has those stupid things. And there's a cheeky one coming up on, I think it's chapter 18 or 17, which got me the other day. And it got me because I was rushing through an area filled with stalkers and I didn't want to kill them, so I was, you know, going super fast. And I ended up running around a corner and just getting turned into gravy. It was pretty great. But once we fumigate this entire area, we're going to be able to use the bench, and you're going to want to put on your best crowd control equipment because we've got another room filled with feeders, and we've also got another strategy that involves exploiting the way that they spawn, exploiting the way that they attack, and we're going to be funneling them all into a landing zone underneath a vent where we're going to be stood shooting them. And hopefully you've got the equipment, you've got the ammo to deal with the situation, and everything should be okay. If you go in the room, you've got balls of steel, and you probably also have some really good room clearing capacity, but when I went in the room it just overwhelmed me, so this technique is easily the safest that I'm about to show you. And that is what this guide's about, because a lot of people are going to be looking on YouTube for videos on how to do certain sections in efficient ways, you know, for preparation for hardcore, for preparation for whatever run they're planning on doing, and hopefully when they watch these they'll see a couple of things they didn't know or they didn't think to try, and it'll help them out. Because I do think there's a lot of this game that you could potentially run past. It's just, to me, running past enemies on a Dead Space is kind of counterproductive. It's counter the game, and I can understand it towards the end, because towards the end it always seems like they throw too many at you, but for the most, I always feel obligated to fight. I don't know why, but this is the feeder room, this is the vent we're going to be exploiting momentarily. That is, I can't tell if that's a twitcher or what, but the strategy here is if you open the door that I've just tried to open, and you back up just on the precipice of it, you can control these enemies. You can stand just on this lip here, keep the door open, because obviously if you let the door close it won't work. And what we're going to do is their enemies are going to drop out the vent. They've got quite a decent running distance to get to you, and you can just divide and conquer. Take the legs, take them out, back up a little bit, go forward, and we're just going to be teasing this doorway so that they spawn and that we can thin their numbers before we go forward. If they get too many of them, you know, at the same time, swap to your force gun to control them. But for the most, if you've got a decent damage dealer like I have with the plasma cutter, I'm just going to be laying down suppressive fire and keeping them at bay. But there's a lot of them, and they are the black variants, and the black variants are the most damaging. They're also the ones that have the most life. Be careful when you stand underneath the vent because it will trigger spawns sometimes, as you're going to see in a moment. Oh no, nothing happened then. But as you can hear, there are still enemies, and the only problem is they don't quite know what to do. As I've mentioned, certain areas of this game, depending on where you stand, will depend on how the enemy responds to you, and sometimes they just don't understand what the best way to approach you is, and it's really useful for us, not so useful for them. But it's literally just exploiting the AI, exploiting the spawn mechanic, and it works. That's the most important thing, it works. So I'm going to be tentative here, but I believe we've cleared this place out. I think that's all of them. The Rosetta piece is on top of that shelf I just walked past. I'm just checking the room for any more potential spawns. There we go, just pick up some ammo, some audio logs if anyone's interested. There's an artifact, there's a Rosetta piece, and I'm just going to check this room out before I do the objective. And so far, it's not been too bad, this chapter. This can be quite a rough chapter. It's definitely one of the better ones because it gives you a choice. It gives you quite a nice area, quite a large environment, and you can tackle it in whatever order you want to, which I think is definitely better designed than some parts of this game. And it's a million miles from what the last few chapters are, because they're just dreadful. But there's the last piece of Rosetta. Now we can continue on our path back to the lab. We can see some of the plot twists, some of the developments. I'm not going to really speak much about them, because as you've already guessed, I'm pretty negative on the story of this game. That's a bit cheap, that door, just then. 2 fatties just chilling out on the other side of the door, and then 2 black slashers. Be careful of the fat guys. As per normal, if you hit them in the stomach or anywhere that's not a limb, they will spawn the crabs. The crabs will infect any dead bodies on the ground. They'll also get on you and start trying to nip you and shit and tickle you, so you've got to do the good old-fashioned chicken dance to get them off. But stamp the bodies and then push forward. I was almost certain that there was another enemy in here, but for some reason it either despawned or the game just killed it or something, because there's nothing here. But it doesn't stop me from being paranoid, because if I think there's an enemy nearby, I am going to be tentative as it gets, because I don't like dying. I don't think anybody likes dying on games, unless you're playing Persona, because I think on Persona you have to kill yourself, you have to suicide to do certain things, which is a nice and cheerful thing to do on a game. Good old bullet to the face. Ooh, this is going to introduce the Twitchers. So we've been through this area before, and last time nothing attacked us. Bear in mind, if this ship sees you, it will shoot you. So the reason why I'm hugging this wall is so that it doesn't shoot at you. It's not the hardest thing in the world to dodge, but if it hits you, it does some serious damage. I gotta tell a lie, guys, this is not the Twitcher area. It's a similar area though, and it is coming up. But it's not that place, so I just made you panic for no real reason. Here's these 2 guys that will forever lay on this floor for no real reason. And there is an intercepted radio signal. So we're going to go back into the central lab. We're going to play a nice little game of, I don't know, Connect 4. I don't know what you'd call it. It's essentially Operation. This is the bit with the Twitchers. So as soon as you go towards the door that leads into this next arena, there's going to be some Twitchers, but here they come. See what I mean? He's kind of moves like Goku. He's pretty fast, this guy. It's definitely over 9,000, that power level. But luckily enough, he's wearing a gas mask, and he's got a torch on him, so we can see him for the most. And they're not that strong. They're just a necromorph. It's just the fast. And speed is an asset on this game. But as soon as you push past these 2 blocks here, there you go. There's the first one. There's the ones I was expecting. Look at that. 4 of the bastards. Not a good situation to be in. If you've got anything explosive at that point, you can just kill them all, but I'm using precision, and that guy's doing the crab. He's now doing the laying on the floor with only 1 leg. That's the force gun there knocking his head off. He's still coming though. Look how fast they are, Jesus. Definitely the most intimidating necromorph, I think. by a long margin. But they are killable. They are extremely killable, as I've just displayed. And if you've got anything that's remotely explosive when they're all together like that, they're not going to stand much of a chance. But as I was saying, we're going to be going back into the lab. We're going to be playing, you know, this slot game so that we can assemble the creature into its actual form. It's not the easiest thing to do either, because it's a little bit misleading. You don't know what the full form is, so it can be quite awkward seeing what are its hands, what are its feet and stuff like that. But there's no time limit, there's no rush, you can take your time. I don't get it immediately, it takes me a couple of slides. Sliding the puzzle pieces is a little bit of a pain in the ass, because sometimes you pick up the wrong one and, you know, various other things. But for the most, it's pretty simple stuff. So I'm going to probably upgrade stasis, because shit is hitting... Oh no, I'm not. What am I going to do? Recharge, maybe? There you go. Recharge, energy, and then I don't have enough transducers to do anything else. So the duration is standard, which is not a problem. My kinesis is still pretty shit, which is a shame, because I do enjoy it. And it's still powerful, even if you don't upgrade it, it's still powerful. It's one of those things that is always useful, regardless of if you invest in it. But you don't really need me to talk for the rest of this, and because these videos are really long and I've got quite a few left to do, I'm probably going to leave it here, guys. So thank you for watching. I hope the guide is helping, and you take care now.